It had been exactly 1 month since the divorce. I ran into my ex-husband at a business dinner, only our roles had shifted dramatically. Now he was my party and my client. He leaned back, a playful, almost insolent smile on his face. "Want my signature, Miss Sterling?" he drawled, his eyes twinkling with a devilish amusement. "Then you'll have to stay and keep me company tonight. Just got divorced, you know. On the rebound." "Go rebound with your grandmother." The words screamed in my head, but I managed to keep them locked behind a tight smile. I had been pursuing this project for months, meticulously ironing out every last detail. Finally, everything was agreed upon and the signing date was set. According to unwritten business etiquette, we scheduled a dinner with the client beforehand, a chance to express mutual commitment, toast to future success, and frankly butter them up. I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was both celebratory and stylishly revealing, think effortlessly seductive, designed to please the client and hopefully expedite the contract signing. Lily, my secretary, had chosen the venue well. A top-tier restaurant in the city, renowned for its Michelin-starred chef. The ambience was perfect, the food promised to be exquisite. The only thing that soured the evening for me was the identity of our party A. The moment Adrian Vance walked in, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. Lily leaned over, whispering urgently in my ear, "Miss Sterling, we only just found out ourselves. Mr. Vance is the major shareholder behind the project. He's officially our client now." I pinched the bridge of my nose, a dull ache starting behind my eyes. Just my luck. We were enemies from another life, it seemed. Even after divorce, he was still haunting my professional space. What twisted fate was this? Swallowing my annoyance, I stood up, composing myself. I walked over, glass in hand, offering a toast. My words flowed smoothly, a practiced mix of flattery and business acumen. Adrian watched me, a faint sardonic smile playing on his lips. He looked utterly unimpressed, his gaze cool, almost detached. A dissatisfied client meant a lost deal, lost money. And in my current state as a newly divorced woman, I needed to work harder than ever to prove myself, to accumulate wealth. Despite his initial coolness, my efforts, my forced cheerfulness, gradually warmed the atmosphere. Conversation flowed, drinks were poured. Everyone seemed to relax, laughing, chatting. Except Adrian. He still looked displeased. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if he was here not as a client, but as a saboteur. As the dinner wound down, I offered the customary polite closing. "I hope everything was satisfactory, Mr. Vance. Please, if you have any further requirements, we'll do our best to accommodate." He didn't miss a beat. His request was immediate, direct, and utterly characteristic of him. "Then Miss Sterling will stay and keep me company tonight. Just got divorced, you know. On the rebound." Damn my loose tongue. I wanted to bite it off. Why did I have to ask? I knew he wouldn't have decent intentions, yet I walked right into his trap. My accompanying colleagues, sensing the shift in the air, quickly made their excuses and melted away, leaving just the two of us in the spacious private room. Adrian Vance had an incredible tolerance for alcohol. I had never seen him genuinely drunk. I, on the other hand, had practically been raised at the dinner table by my father, honing a legendary ability to drink anyone under the table. So here I was, perfectly sober, staring at him, unable to fathom why he wanted me to stay. Our history, if one could call it that, was rather unconventional. We were betrothed in a childhood engagement decided by our families. There was no childhood sweethearts romance, no innocent starry-eyed affection. Our parents were business associates who, over years of successful collaborations, had become close friends. One day they simply decided, with a grand gesture, that we should marry. Our opinions weren't consulted, no formal contract was signed, but the arrangement felt as permanent and undeniable as if it were forged in steel. And so, after graduating from university and returning home to take over the family businesses, our parents joyfully orchestrated the wedding. To say we had no foundation of feeling might be inaccurate. We had grown up together side by side. From the moment Adrian could speak, his mother had told him I was his future wife. We were closer than relatives in a way, but it had absolutely nothing to do with romantic love or longing. So for 3 years of marriage, we were excellent business partners, efficient colleagues, and polite roommates under the same roof. Separate rooms, no intrusion into each other's lives. But living together, seeing each other daily, the undeniable lack of connection, the realization that we simply weren't compatible on a personal level, led to the separation. The divorce was my suggestion. He was working late in his study one evening, and I was frustrated dealing with relentless pressure from both sets of parents about having children. I walked into his study, my mood chaotic. "They're asking about babies again," I said, my voice flat. "How about we just get a divorce?" He didn't even look up from his work. "Fine," he replied, his voice calm, indifferent. "Whatever you want." There was no turning back after that. We divorced as quietly and smoothly as we had married. The only regret I had was, well, that after 3 years of marriage we had never actually slept together. A real genuine damn-it regret. Adrian Vance was the epitome of a public figure, handsome face, perfect physique, and obscenely rich. Growing up with him, perhaps I was too used to his presence to notice his attractiveness. It wasn't until I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau after the divorce and saw women immediately flocking to him trying to strike up conversations that I realized what I had potentially missed out on. They say, a divorced man is a treasure. From the beginning of this dinner, every woman in the room had eyes only for him. Every woman except me. That was deliberate, wasn't it? I said, a sarcastic edge to my voice now that we were alone. 3 years of complete disinterest in me, and suddenly he wanted me to stay, talking about being on the rebound? He just wanted to create a scene, make people misunderstand. "If you weren't divorced," Adrian said, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at my outfit, "you'd be Mrs. Vance. You wouldn't have to dress like this to attend business dinners." "This is business," I retorted, feeling a prickle of indignation. "Dress like this?" It wasn't that revealing, just a little low cut in the front, a bit of skin showing on the back, highlighting my figure. And Paigio, attending a dinner to keep someone company/flirt? You're the one who always did that. Furious, I grabbed my bag and walked out, slamming the door behind me. Client or not, he was deliberately provoking me. I expected to hear that my business deal was off, that I had angered Adrian Vance. But the next day he acted as if nothing had happened. He called, instructing his subordinate to contact me to proceed with the work. The only condition was that I had to report the results directly to him via phone calls. I decided to tolerate it for now. He was just enjoying playing the client role too much. 3 days later, the Chamber of Commerce hosted a charity gala. Ostensibly for charity, it was primarily a networking event. Of course I had to attend, dressed to impress. My father, after hearing about my divorce, had been livid, threatening to find a relative to inherit the family business instead. I vehemently opposed this and was determined to achieve something significant, to prove my capability and silence him. That determination was why I was enduring Adrian Vance's antics. His presence at the gala was unexpected. This level of event usually wasn't significant enough to warrant his personal appearance. From the moment he entered, it was a clear demonstration of being the center of attention, surrounded by admirers. A crowd of hopeful men and women swarmed around him, yet kept a respectful distance. He walked past me, high and aloof, sparing me only a fleeting glance before moving on. "Humph. Playing the big shot, are we?" He called my outfit Paigio. But wasn't he just as artificial and calculating in these social settings? "Miss Sterling, Lily, my new temporary secretary," the original one was sick, whispered, her eyes wide with admiration. "Who is that man? He's so handsome. If only I could marry someone like him." "It's not that hard," I said truthfully. Marrying Adrian Vance had been incredibly easy. "Miss Sterling," the young secretary pressed, her eyes gleaming with curiosity, "I heard you got divorced. Why?" She looked at me with wide, adoring eyes, seemingly hanging on my every word. I decided it was time to give her a dose of reality. I leaned in, lowering my voice conspiratorially, adopting a sympathetic expression. "He's incapable," I said, making it sound like a reluctant private confession. Crack. The sound of glass shattering behind me. A wave of intense predatory energy washed over me, starting from my heels and crawling up my spine to the back of my head. I whipped around. Damn it. Adrian Vance. When did he get here? He was standing right behind me, a wine glass clutched in his hand, now shattered. He must have heard me. He looked furious. I steadied myself, put on my most charming smile, smoothed my hair back dramatically, and batted my eyelashes. "Mr. Vance," I purred, trying to sound seductive. "Practicing your martial arts, are we?" Impressive strength. There. He said I attended dinners to entertain, accused me of being on the rebound, and acted like being a client gave him absolute power. My little comment was perfect payback. I felt a surge of triumphant glee. My satisfaction was short-lived. I was quickly brought back to reality. The host's enthusiastic announcement introduced my former in-laws, Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Vance, making a grand entrance. It made sense now. Adrian's parents were the main sponsors behind this charity gala. Damn it, I should have known. I hadn't seen them since the divorce. This wasn't the place for an awkward reunion. I started to make my escape. But before I got far, my phone rang. Adrian Vance. The caller ID sent a shiver down my spine. His message read, "My parents know you're here. Try to slip away. I dare you." We might be divorced, but apparently our WeChat connection remained. Staring at his ominous message, I accepted the inevitable. I was trapped. Sweetie Lily was still absorbed in our previous conversation, pressing for details. "Miss Sterling, what exactly did you mean by incapable?" Her eyes, bright with gossip, sparkled, outshining the glitter on her eyelids. In the Vance family's territory, I couldn't possibly speak ill of their son. Even an idiot knew that. So I quickly shifted gears, denying my previous statement with a straight face, passionately defending Adrian's honor. "Who said he's incapable?" "You misheard," I said. "It's impossible he's incapable. He's too capable." Sweetie Lily looked bewildered. "Miss Sterling," she persisted, completely confused. "Then are you saying you prefer a capable man or an incapable one?" Oh, for heaven's sake. I had dug my own grave and now had to jump in. Especially since the very subject of our conversation was standing right behind me. I could practically feel the rising pressure of his anger and veiled threats. "That kind of explicit conversation is not suitable for this venue," Adrian interjected, his voice coolly cutting off Sweetie Lily's persistent questioning. Her source of juicy gossip abruptly cut off. The young secretary pouted, looking visibly frustrated. But my troubles clearly were just beginning. "Alara, what are you talking about?" A familiar, kind voice came from behind me. My former mother-in-law. Oh no, the two senior Vances were here. I turned, forcing a bright, innocent smile for the sudden appearance of my former in-laws. "Dad, Mom, what are you doing here?" The man who had just threatened me via text message moments ago completely changed his demeanor. Adrian put on a fake innocent expression, a transparent act of, "I'm just being sweet and harmless, you can't expose me." It was utterly fake, but with my former in-laws present, I had no choice but to play along. Sweetie Lily, sensing the shift and realizing her earlier mistake, wisely made herself scarce. "Alara, you seem so busy these days," Mrs. Vance said, taking my hand, her eyes filled with genuine warmth and concern. "You look thinner." My former in-laws had always been kind to me. In many wealthy families, a daughter-in-law's primary duty is often seen as producing an heir. While I had faced some pressure, Adrian's parents had always been supportive, encouraging rather than demanding. They had even made genuine efforts to understand my career aspirations, promising not to interfere after I had a child. If I had felt even a flicker of romantic love for Adrian, I would have fought to keep that marriage, if only for such wonderful in-laws. Felt like a waste to leave them. "Adrian," Mr. Vance said, turning to his son, his tone a little stern, "didn't you say you were bringing Alara to visit us? It's been a month and you haven't shown up once. We had to come find you." So sponsoring this gala was just an excuse to see me? I felt a strange mix of surprise and, well, a little bit of flattery. "She's been very busy," Adrian said, his voice mild, completely different from the arrogant tone he used with me. He effortlessly shifted the blame. Sure enough, as soon as he finished, my former in-law's attention turned back to me. Adrian, standing just behind his father, shot me a smirk, a mischievous, challenging glint in his eyes. "Oh, you are so getting it, Adrian Vance. How could he be so green tea? Alara, how can you be so busy?" Mrs. Vance continued, concern etched on her face. "It's not important to see us, but you must take care of yourself." She had clearly bought her son's excuse. "Or," she added, her voice softer, "has Adrian upset you? If he has, tell Dad. Dad will stand up for you." Even though we were divorced, they still referred to themselves as my parents and treated me with the same affection as before. I was starting to lose my composure, but thankfully, Mrs. Vance quickly changed the subject. "By the way," she said, a knowing look in her eyes, "we overheard a little bit of your conversation just now." My earlier conversation? I had just been chatting with the young secretary. Wait, they couldn't mean? Sure enough, Mr. Vance heartily clapped Adrian on the shoulder, confirming my fear. "Son, we know you're young and strong, but you must exercise restraint," Mrs. Vance added, her voice gentle, sympathetic. "That's right, son. You need to be more gentle. Otherwise, Alara won't be able to handle it." Oh my God. My former in-laws were openly discussing Adrian's performance. In front of me. I felt my face burning, caught in an unbelievable wave of embarrassment. I glanced at Adrian. His face was ashen, his eyes fixed on me, probably equally mortified. The misunderstanding had spiraled out of control. Thankfully, many other guests were vying for my former in-law's attention. They excused themselves after a few more words, leaving me and Adrian alone again. As soon as they were out of earshot, I let out a shaky breath. Adrian, however, remained stony-faced. He was clearly upset by his parents' very public comments, fueled by my earlier defamation. Suddenly, a mischievous thought popped into my head. I leaned closer to Adrian, my voice dropping to a mock conspiratorial whisper. Mr. Vance, something I've always been curious about. Are you a virgin?" My question earned me an immediate sharp glare. His eyes narrowed dangerously. No way. Was I right? My suspicion about this wasn't new. Having known him since childhood, I was well aware of his social circle. For over 20 years, Adrian Vance had never had a single suspected partner by his side. I'd even wondered if he'd ever spent time alone with any age-appropriate woman besides me. Logically, a man with his looks, wealth, and status, even without a playboy reputation, should have had some desire to explore. But we hadn't. And my question just now seemed to confirm that no one else had either. The only explanation remaining was, he didn't want to sleep with women. The thought sparked immediate, undeniable gossip-hungry curiosity. Before Adrian could erupt, I pressed on, emboldened. "Adrian Vance," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. Do you like men?" After the gala, I stood outside, waiting for Sweetie Lily to get the car. My former mother-in-law suddenly appeared and stopped me. "Alara, a package just arrived. For you at the house. Come back with us to get it." Had I accidentally used their address for a delivery? Before I could check my logistics information, I found myself ushered, gently but firmly, into Mrs. Vance's Rolls-Royce. Seeing me being whisked away, Sweetie Lily sent me a trembling text message. "Miss Sterling, if you're kidnapped, I'm calling the police." Damn it. Now you think about calling the police? Why didn't you try to stop them earlier? Smiling benignly, my former mother-in-law held my hand. I sent a quick, reassuring emoji back to Sweetie Lily. There was no point checking logistics now. My former in-laws clearly just wanted me to come back. Sure enough, the moment we arrived at their home, the elder Vances, with a mix of cajoling and maneuvering, managed to place me and Adrian under the same roof. Under the same roof meant the entire top floor of their villa, which had been designated as ours during our marriage for privacy and office space. Even though we usually lived in our city center apartment for work, they had kept this entire floor reserved for us. As soon as I walked in, they made a quick excuse about looking for the package and vanished. Mr. Vance," I said, my voice awkward. What a surprise. I took a small step back, putting some distance between us. My attempts at being subtle didn't escape Adrian's notice. "Said I liked men, but you're still scared?" he asked, his tone lazy. He casually sat down on the sofa. It had only been a month, but Adrian seemed different. In the past few days, wherever he appeared, women's eyes had glued themselves to him. He had unbuttoned the top few buttons of his shirt, revealing his fair, long neck. He picked up a glass of water from the table, his prominent Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed, a potent display of masculinity. Unconsciously, I found myself scanning him up and down. He really was incredibly charismatic. I had shared a space with this specimen of attractiveness and hadn't even tried to straighten him out when it was perfectly legitimate? A true waste of potential. But what was done was done. There was no need to pursue it now that we were divorced. I turned, preparing to leave. "Mr. Vance, it's getting late. I should be going." The two words goodbye were still forming on my lips when a flash of lightning illuminated the night sky outside. A moment later, thunder rumbled. Adrian gave a low whistle, a smug, triumphant look in his eyes he couldn't hide. I didn't need him to say anything. I knew exactly what he was thinking. I wasn't going anywhere. I sat in the Vance family's tea room trying to project an air of calm contemplation, while everyone else seemed genuinely relaxed, sipping their tea. Half an hour ago, all my arguments about leaving had been met with Mrs. Vance's simple, effective phrase, "Elara, I'm scared." It felt like a complete failure as a woman, especially compared to my former mother-in-law. Look at her now, her husband worth billions on one side, her incredibly handsome son on the other, and facing her, the former daughter-in-law she could manipulate with a little sweet talk. She was the true winner here. "Mom," I said, my voice slightly shaky, trying to sound innocent. "I think the rain might stop soon, right?" Hoping she'd pick up on my hint that I wanted to leave. "Oh really?" she said, her voice filled with mock concern. "But I feel like it's going to rain for a long, long time." She placed her teacup down, and her beautiful, wrinkle-free face instantly creased with feigned worry. She walked to the window, frowning dramatically. "Elara, I'm the most afraid of thunder and rain. I used to be too embarrassed to admit it, afraid you'd laugh." She paused, her performance Oscar-worthy. "But then, after you married Adrian, I wasn't scared anymore." She turned back to me, her eyes wide and earnest. "You must be my lucky charm, my little mascot. I really need you here tonight, so please promise me you won't go, okay?" How could I possibly refuse after a speech like that? This woman deserved an award. "Okay," I sighed, defeated. "I'll stay and keep you company tonight." Seemed I was stuck, being their good luck charm for the evening. Mrs. Vance exchanged a satisfied look with Mr. Vance, looking relieved and happy. I, on the other hand, felt only resignation. I made an excuse to go to the restroom, taking my phone with me for a temporary escape. I sent Adrian a long, detailed message explaining all the urgent reasons why I had to leave. About 15 minutes later, I finally got his reply. The jerk. For words. Unable to assist. "You have got to be kidding me." I gripped my phone, resisting the urge to throw it against the wall. "It costs money, don't break it." "Fine. Since I was here, I might as well stay." The Vance house was huge. They certainly had room for one more small bed. I just go to sleep early and leave first thing in the morning. It would be fine. But for some reason, I had a nagging feeling that things wouldn't be that simple. Heavy rain, a secluded mansion, a man and a woman alone. Tonight, there was definitely a conspiracy afoot. I watched the clock tick past 10. Even the Vance family's little dog was yawning. Taking my cue from the dog, I let out a loud, exaggerated yawn, signaling my desire to go to bed. Mr. Vance saw right through my act. "Elara," he chuckled. "Weren't you an expert at staying up late before? How are you so tired so early now?" "That's right," Mrs. Vance chimed in, reminiscing. "I remember during Chinese New Year's Eve, Elara was the one who could stay up the longest." They were deliberately bringing up old memories, leaving me with no room to maneuver. Maybe running my own business is just more tiring," I mumbled. "Ah yes," Mrs. Vance said sympathetically. "Elara is on her own now, having to do everything herself. It must be exhausting." After exposing my act, they were now being overly solicitous. Watching their well-coordinated performance, I was both amused and annoyed. Adrian remained silent throughout, simply observing. "I'll make sure to take care of myself," I said, trying to sound sincere. "You don't need to worry." Fortunately, after a few more exchanges, my former in-laws finally released me, allowing me to go to bed. I expected them to insist I go back to my old bedroom, but Mrs. Vance led me to a guest room. "Just make do for tonight, okay?" Mrs. Vance opened the door for me, her face a mask of sweet concern. I was overjoyed. Not making do at all. This is wonderful. My enthusiastic response didn't quite earn Mrs. Vance's approval. She glanced at Adrian, a look of undisguised reproach in her eyes. Her expression seemed to say, "How unlikable are you, that your ex-wife is so relieved to not share a room with you?" After saying goodnight to Mrs. Vance, I prepared for a relaxing bath. Even as a guest room, it was incredibly luxurious. I ran the bathwater, my mind drifting back to my former in-laws' adorable scheming tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Vance were prominent figures in society. Yet here they were, still actively trying to manage their son's love life, even resorting to acting and sweet-talking to get me to stay. It was quite touching in a ridiculous way. I hadn't finished my reflections on the elder Vance's efforts when something suddenly scared me. A few small dark creatures appeared by the drain, followed by more and more, crawling out and heading directly towards me. Ah! Forgetting I was completely undressed, I screamed and scrambled out of the tub. What's wrong? An urgent male voice burst into the bathroom. Terrified by the roaches, I threw myself at the sudden appearance of Adrian Vance, clinging to him, pointing hysterically at the bathroom and babbling about the insects. He soothed me, quickly found insecticide, and unleashed a torrent of spray into the bathroom, then slammed the door shut. Cough cough. Sprayed insecticide. It should be okay now. His hand was still trapped in my death grip, but his eyes were carefully averted. Are you sure? It's okay, I asked, still processing the cockroach invasion. Aren't you cold? Adrian's question finally brought me back to the immediate reality. Oh God. I was completely naked, clinging to my ex-husband. I scrambled to the edge of the bed, wrapping myself in a blanket. The air was thick with awkward silence. Adrian was facing away from me, standing rigidly. After a long moment, someone couldn't bear it anymore. From the doorway, I faintly heard my former in-laws' voices. Husband, it's quiet now. Do you think she fainted from fright? Impossible, Mr. Vance's calm voice replied. Don't worry. If she was that scared, Adrian would have carried her out by now. I should have known she was so afraid of roaches. I shouldn't have put so many. Sentimental foolishness. How can we get a grandchild without drastic measures? Besides, those were just simulation roaches I had someone make. Do you know how many times I tested them to make them look realistic? Oh my God. The air grew even more awkward. Speechless. For the first time since the divorce, Adrian and I were feeling the exact same emotion. Utter, complete, mortified embarrassment. Adrian didn't say anything, still facing away from me. I didn't know what he was thinking. After a long moment, I couldn't stand it anymore. Whether I went back to the bathroom for my clothes or grabbed a robe from the closet, I would have to get up and walk past Adrian. And my former in-laws were probably still outside listening. Fine maid. Adrian leave now, who knew what new drama they'd cook up? After careful consideration, I decided to get up and grab a robe. I figured since he liked men, he wouldn't be interested even if I danced naked in front of him. He'd probably just feel awkward and disgusted. As long as I didn't feel awkward, the awkwardness was everyone else's problem. So I cautiously emerged from the blanket, wrapped in its folds, and started inching past him towards the closet behind him. But the blanket was too long. I stepped on it. My balance failed and I tumbled directly towards Adrian. He spun around quickly, his eyes wide, catching me instantly in his arms. Be careful. Oh no. Social death. Right now. Because I knew why Adrian had been facing away from me. My eyes landed on the unmistakable bulge in his pants. He had a reaction, but he liked men. He had been facing away from me to hide his reaction, trying to relieve the awkwardness. And now it was infinitely more awkward. Adrian Vance, you. My face was flaming, I was completely flustered. Adrian squeezed his eyes shut, his eyebrows knitted together. He finally snapped at me, his voice rough with frustration. Alara Sterling, listen to me. I'm only going to say this once, so get it through your head. I goddamn like women. It turns out my former mother-in-law was telling the truth. The heavy rain didn't stop until early morning. Adrian didn't leave. He spent the night under the same roof as me. Since the sofa was clearly too short for his 6 feet 3 inches frame, he grabbed a spare blanket and slept on the floor. Feeling guilty about my earlier slander, I kindly offered him a pillow. Staring at the back of his head, my earlier questions resurfaced. Adrian Vance, are you asleep? He mumbled. Humph. Asleep but can still reply? Such an aloof guy. Can I ask you something? He didn't move, making me seriously doubt if he was even awake. Resisting the urge to ask him for business secrets, I voiced the question that had been bothering me since the dinner. Why have you been my client so much lately? Thankfully this time I didn't just get an guess. Adrian's response was fully awake, laced with teasing. So he was awake after all. You're just doing it on purpose, I accused, feeling sudden surge of annoyance at his aloofness earlier. Trying to make things difficult for me, get back at me. I waited for his denial, his dismissive scoff. After a long silence, I heard a soft sigh. It was light, but the emotion behind it felt heavy. Yeah, he murmured. You guessed right. I knew it. Fine. Go to sleep. Good night. For some reason I felt irritated. I huffed and turned over, closing my eyes. A few minutes later, Adrian's voice, accompanied by the steady rhythm of the rain, reached my ears. He asked me the same question I had asked him. Alara Sterling, are you asleep? But I was more petty than Adrian. I didn't give him even an ignored him completely. After that night, Adrian and I had no further direct interaction for a while. Something had changed after that evening, subtly, unspoken. While our personal relationship remained in a state of ambiguous limbo, it didn't impact my business at all. I successfully secured the major contract with Adrian as the representative, a massive deal. Seeing my strong performance, even my demanding father finally nodded in approval. I thought this was the moment my position as heir was solidified. But my restless father had one more trick up his sleeve. What? You're still transferring the inheritance? I was busy at the office when my father suddenly arrived, bringing someone with him. You don't have a child, my father said, sipping the sweet tea Lily had brought him, stating his absurd reasoning with a straight face. I have to find someone to take care of you in your old age, right? You refuse to be the respected Mrs. Vance and insist on building your own career. Fine. You make all this money, but in the end, there's no one to look after you, no one to see you off. Honestly, what kind of thing was my old man saying? I wasn't even 30 yet, and he was already worried about who would bury me. Lily, sensing the tension between us, quickly tried to smooth things over by praising me. Chairman, Miss Sterling worked incredibly hard to get that contract with Mr. Vance, and she didn't even know he was the person behind it initially. She did it purely on merit. Her intention was likely to calm my father down, but she over-delivered. My father wasn't just calm. He practically leaped to his feet, beaming. Whose contract did you say Alara got? The young secretary, faced with the chairman standing so close for the first time, was flustered. She stammered out the details of the contract with Adrian Vance again. With each word she spoke, my father's smile widened. Excellent. What's your name? Let's exchange WeChat. From now on, if Miss Sterling has any similar deals, you must tell me immediately. My father happily exchanged WeChat IDs. After Sweetie Lily left, he issued an ultimatum. If you don't want me to transfer the inheritance, then give me a grandchild. Stop making me and your mother worry. Right. He certainly didn't make this trip in vain. He'd stumbled upon a big secret and recruited a little spy along the way. Within half an hour, my mother called. Sure enough, the old man went straight home and spilled the beans. Old man Chow, you're being unfair. Don't blame me for fighting back. Interrupting my mother's enthusiastic grandchild talk, I delivered my version of the truth, carefully edited based on what I'd seen, to my dear mother. Mom, today Dad added a young, pretty girl on WeChat at the office. Her username is something like Hot Sweetie Lily. To ensure maximum impact, I'd quickly checked Lily's actual name on WeChat earlier. Predictably, my mother's target of attack immediately shifted. Old man Chow, what are you doing? Are you trying to delete people? Give me your phone. I hung up, achieving temporary peace. But I knew this was just the beginning. The real drama was yet to come. To prevent my parents from getting even more convoluted ideas, I decided to work with a different client for the subsequent phases of the project. The initial contract was signed and couldn't be changed, but it was a massive project requiring support from many more party-a-daddies. Sweetie Lily was completely bewildered by my sudden decision to change clients. Naga, on the other hand, who had been with me for years, didn't question it at all and immediately started looking for a new potential client for me. After a long search, Naga finally found a strong, capable party A. The only problem was they were incredibly difficult to work with. They kept changing the terms, refusing to finalize the cooperation agreement. I knew they were doing it deliberately, but this time I didn't have the patience to drag it out. I scheduled a meeting with their representative myself and went, contract in hand. In the private room, their representative, a man named Mr. Thorne, first feigned willingness to cooperate, then produced a contract that was heavily skewed against us. He knew I was eager to secure a lead for the project and was squeezing the profit margins to the absolute minimum. Mr. Thorne, I said, my voice strained. So I'm basically working for free? Don't say that, Miss Sterling, he said, his smile oily and condescending. You made so much from the previous phase with the Vance Group, can't you take a little less from us? Besides, the land use rights are about to expire. Better to make some profit than have the land forcibly repossessed, right? The man's eyes, small and shrewd, gleamed with a mix of slyness and ruthlessness. I heard he was a former lawyer, known for trapping people in unfavorable deals. Dealing with someone like him, you had to be even more ruthless. I grabbed the wine bottle from the table and slammed it down on the corner, shattering it. The sudden loud crash sent glass flying. The man jumped, his small eyes widening in shock. Zhao Qiguang, I said, using his full name, my voice cold and hard. Don't try your dirty tricks and petty schemes with me. They won't work. My sudden fierce display stunned Mr. Thorne into silence. Before I could press him to sign, my phone rang. It was Naga. Miss Sterling, I heard you're meeting with Mr. Thorne. Mr. Vance just arrived at the company and asked for your room number. He's on his way up. Adrian Vance? What's he doing here? Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I didn't have time to do anything else. I quickly kicked the broken bottle neck under the table and sat back down, trying to look composed. Mr. Thorne was still staring at me, speechless, amazed by my sudden transformation. I ignored him. The door opened and Adrian Vance walked in. And just as he did, a single tear rolled down my cheek. Mr. Thorne, I sobbed dramatically, covering my face with my hands. You can't just bully me like this, sob. Mr. Thorne, completely bewildered, was suddenly grabbed by the collar. Adrian Vance's assistant, who also recognized me, acted immediately. On Adrian's silent cue. Zhao Qiguang, the assistant barked, his voice laced with authority. How dare you bully Mrs. Vance? Mrs. Vance? Shouldn't it be ex-wife? Then something even more shocking happened. Adrian Vance rushed to my side, his face etched with what looked like genuine concern. He put an arm around me, pulling me close, and gently wiped away my not-so-many tears with a tissue. I swallowed hard, feeling my heart race. Was I playing this too far? Mr. Thorne, however, wasn't stupid. He immediately understood the shift in power dynamics. It's a misunderstanding, Mr. Thorne stammered, his face pale. My secretary is new. She brought the wrong contract. The wrong one. With Mr. Thorne's panicked admission, I successfully signed the contract. At the price I wanted. As he left, he kept glancing at me and Adrian, his expression a mixture of annoyance and disbelief. His look clearly said, You too. You're impossible. Playing people like this. It wasn't me playing. Not entirely. I had simply gambled that even as an ex-husband, Adrian Vance's protective nature would kick in, that he'd stand up for me if I was in trouble. But I hadn't expected his reaction to be so strong. Not just protectiveness, but genuine concern, tension, worry, emotions he shouldn't have had for me anymore. As soon as Mr. Thorne was gone, I straightened up, stepping out of Adrian's embrace. My clear act of using and discarding made Adrian finally lose his composure. Ilara, he said, his voice rough, his eyes dark. You looked really ugly crying just now. I sniffled, feigning nonchalance. At least I could cry, I retorted. Can't believe you're complaining that I didn't cry prettily. What? Adrian said next, completely disarmed me. Because I know you look ugly when you cry, he said, his voice softening. I've never made you cry. His sudden sincerity caught me off guard. He was right. All the years I had spent with Adrian Vance since childhood, I had never once cried because of him. Not from sadness, not from being hurt. Not even from small accidents. Yeah, I heard myself say the words slipping out before I could stop them. You've always protected me well. The comment, coming from my heart, felt like another social death. Adrian, clearly taken aback, finally responded, his voice a little exasperated. It's good you know that. Oh. His emotions today were already unusual. Why were his words suddenly so charming? The business matter was settled, but Adrian didn't leave. He ordered a few of my favorite small dishes. As we ate, he naturally put food on my plate. I felt a sense of warmth and familiarity I hadn't experienced in a long time. He hadn't forgotten my preferences. Drinking the warm soup, my mind began to wander. Adrian's actions made it impossible not to wonder. Even though I had technically used him today, his willingness to show up to help me without hesitation, his attentiveness. During dinner, he was acting like a considerate, devoted husband. Maybe it was just a small thing for him. Maybe for someone with his intellect and capacity, remembering a few favorite dishes was nothing. But, damn it, what woman wouldn't be touched by that? Especially from a man so handsome and so rich. And more importantly, he had a reaction to me. Damn it, why did I keep thinking about that night? I swore I wasn't just thinking about him because we hadn't. Okay, maybe I was thinking about it a little. Facing such a desirable man, who could possibly remain indifferent? After that incident with the difficult client, Adrian never gave me another chance to use him as my personal weapon. Because, to my great fortune, he became my primary party again. His company was the strongest, and since my hand had already been played, I saw no point in resisting. As our professional interactions increased, our families also started reconnecting. Or perhaps they had never truly stopped. One day, scrolling through my father's phone, I found a WeChat group with only 4 members. My former father-in-law was the group admin. The other members were my father, my mother, and my former mother-in-law. The group name was enthusiastically titled, Remarriage Alliance. I didn't confront my father, not wanting to tip them off, but my silence didn't bring the peace I hoped for. Instead, it seemed to fuel the determination of the 4 elders. It felt like I was unwittingly walking right into their meticulously laid plan. In the following weeks, Adrian and I successfully finalized several more collaborations. But about a week ago, he suddenly became distant. Over text, over the phone, I could sense a strange reserve, a deliberate control. It was odd. Adrian seemed moody, quiet, leaving me confused. Was he hiding something from me? But Remarriage Alliance seemed to be in high spirits. I told myself I was overthinking things. A week later, I walked into the contract signing room with Lily, expecting to see the usual company representatives. Instead, I felt like I was in the wrong place. None of the people who should have been there were present. The people who shouldn't have been there were present and on time. Mr. Vance Sr., Adrian's company lawyer, took leave. I'm filling in temporarily. Mrs. Vance Sr., well, I used to manage the finances, didn't I? Just getting back into the swing of things. My father, I'm here with your mother. My mother, and I'm here with your father. Right. Everyone had an excuse. Adrian's eyes, deep and intense, were fixed on me. After a week of minimal contact, he looked tired, his complexion poor. I opened the contract, reviewing it carefully one last time. Mr. Vance, I said, clicking open my Montblanc pen. If everything is acceptable, I'll sign. I was about to put pen to paper. The contract is fine, Adrian said, closing the document in front of him. The sound of the paper closing was jarringly final. But I don't want to sign it right now. What? What was happening now? I looked at Adrian, bewildered. His gaze was fixed on me, resolute, with a hint of frustration. Unless you'll agree to stay with me forever. Excuse me. Ah. Yes. So manly. I can't take this. I'm too old for this kind of excitement. While the 4 elders erupted in joyous cheers, I was utterly confused. Mr. Vance, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and professional. We've agreed on the terms. Please sign the contract. We can discuss anything else later. Seriously, don't play with $100 billion deal. I gritted my teeth, forcing a pleasant tone, trying to coax Adrian. The Vance family might not be in a hurry, but they were. The client. And my parents. What was with their excitement? Was I the only one worried about the future of my family's business? Then promise me one thing first, Adrian said, sensing his advantage, pressing his terms. Unbelievable. But he was the client. I nodded, urging him to just say it quickly so we could finish. Marry me again. The large conference room filled with the jubilant cheers of 2 middle-aged couples. It felt less like a serious business setting and more like an open-air theater for a ridiculous romantic comedy. I was still completely lost. Facing my blank expression, Adrian seemed unwilling to hold back his emotions any longer. He walked towards me, closing the distance. Elara Sterling, he said, his voice low, intense. Enough pretending. I've been in love with you for 10 years. Didn't you realize? 10 years. I froze, a sudden warmth stinging my eyes. As the words settled, Adrian's tall figure knelt before me. He opened a vintage jewelry box, revealing the same pink, 10-carat diamond ring I had left behind after the divorce. "I lied when I told you I just bought this ring randomly," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "I was just too proud back then. I was waiting for you to notice that the carat weight is your birthday. This was the most expensive thing I bought after I turned 18. He looked up at me, his eyes full of hope and vulnerability. "Alara, marry me again." Before I could even respond, he slid the ring back onto my finger. It felt less like a proposal and more like a capture by the lord of a castle. But it was okay. I was willing. After all, he had always been my fortress, my protection. The celebratory confetti hadn't even flown yet, and Adrian added another bewildering comment. "Cancel your flight. Otherwise, I won't be at ease." "A flight? What flight?" He was making no sense today. Just as I was about to question him, the four elders who had been spectating the drama started subtly backing away. "Adrian Vance, what flight are you talking about? You weren't planning to go study abroad after signing this contract? Tonight's flight. And you weren't coming back for 4 years." Ah, they were at it again. This time I reacted first, walking quickly to block the conference room door. Seeing the fury on my face, the four elders looked away, pretended ignorance. After a moment, Adrian finally seemed to understand what his parents had revealed. "Husband," I said, turning to him, my voice deliberately sweet. "It looks like someone set me up. What should I do?" He walked towards me, taking my hand. "Wife," he said, his voice soft. "You call the shots. From now on, everything in this family is your decision." "All right, old folks," I thought, a gleam in my eye. "Let's settle these old and new scores properly." Since Adrian and I successfully reunited, the four elders had become incredibly unified in their purpose. "Oh wow, what's this?" I exclaimed, staring at the spread of supposedly potent food placed in front of Adrian. At my former in-laws' insistence, I had moved back into the Vance family home. My 3 years of idleness in marriage had convinced them not to leave things to chance anymore. They needed to keep a close eye on us, supervise and verify. Adrian frowned at the virility-boosting dishes. He glanced at me, a silent plea for help in his eyes. But I, being naturally mischievous, ignored his signal completely. Under the table, his foot kicked mine firmly. I could feel his rising annoyance. On the surface, he remained calm, gripping his spoon, his eyes fixed on me. "I helped you out back then," his look seemed to say. "Are you abandoning me now?" "That's right," my expression replied. "Enjoy your meal." We were communicating silently, a language only we understood. Then Adrian's lips moved, forming words only I could read. "Wife, you're pushing me." "Mom," he said aloud, his voice mild, pushing away the plate of 1,000 gold baby soup. "This stuff is useless." He looked at his parents directly. "Unless you fix the root problem, you'll never be grandparents." Seeing their son finally bringing up the topic, the elder Vance's eyes lit up with excitement. "What problem, son? Tell us," Mr. Vance Sr. urged. "That's right," Mrs. Vance added. "We have money, resources. What problem could we possibly not solve?" My former in-laws were beaming with anticipation, waiting for Adrian's answer. "Alara and I, we never slept together," Adrian stated calmly, then added, almost as an afterthought, "for 3 years." He spread his hands, a look of utter helplessness on his face. His implication was clear. We were married for 3 years and never consummated the marriage. I wanted to run, but my foot was trapped under the table. I couldn't move. Facing my former in-laws' stunned, disbelieving stares, all I could do was offer an awkward smile. Adrian and I were in trouble. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt. He was chased halfway across the garden by his own parents. Finally, the troubled couple found themselves in the same bed. "Are you okay?" I asked Adrian, genuinely concerned, looking at his slightly bruised arm. "My pride is injured," he said, turning to look at me, a playful glint in his eyes. "But the rest of me is perfectly fine." "Humph." Adrian leaned closer, challenging me. "Don't believe me? Want to find out?" His voice was low, husky, right by my ear, trying to provoke me. Want to find out? Who was he kidding? Try me. See who wins. And so, I willingly fell into his trap. This time, yes, we finally did sleep together. As a successful businesswoman, I considered that night a massive profit. The next morning, Adrian woke up on time and even made me breakfast. Me? The less said, the better. My voice was hoarse, my waist ached. He walked towards me, wearing nothing but a low-slung towel, his chest bare and muscular. He looked like a temptation in human form, ready to steal my soul. "Wife," he murmured, his voice deep and satisfied. "The rebound period is over. Time to register officially." Meaning re-register our marriage.